Welcome to the Publican's Promenade, a pub crawl through Ballarat's hotels during the 1850s to 1890s. This walking tour is about the connection between everyday people and their landscape. In the later part of the 1800s, the hotel was one of the most important parts of an urban environment in Australia. It was a home away from home for many, a place to rest, eat and revive aching travellers' bones. It was also the meeting place of many a miner, businessman and ne'er-do-well. Most of Ballarat's hotels are long gone, having been the casualties of progress. 4 of the hotels, though, that we will visit today, are still being run as licensed premises, so please feel free to stop in and enjoy the atmosphere. Our first stop is the site of the Bridge Hotel and in what is now the Coliseum Walk in the Bridge Mall. It was located on the southern side of Bridge Street. Bridge Street itself was closed off from traffic in 1980 and was turned into the Bridge Mall that you now see. The Bridge Hotel was on the southwest corner of Coliseum Walk, across from the OPSM building. The Bridge Hotel was built sometime before 1857. We don't know its actual build date, but we do know that Patrick Madigan applied to renew his publican's license in 1857. The hearing for this was actually postponed due to, as a Mr. Taylor said, the bedrooms were very dark as they had no windows. The hearing for the license was postponed a week for Mr. Madigan to complete these alterations. By 1858, the Bridge Hotel had changed into the hands of Frank Carey, who was applying for a night licence. The police made a complaint previously about the noise late in the evening. It was noted that since Mr. Carey had taken over, the excessive noise at night had ceased. It was well known that the Bridge Hotel was on the rowdier side and had a reputation for mischief. In 1858, the Bridge Hotel changed hands again to a man going by the surname of Dunk. We don't know much about him, but we do know that the Bridge Hotel was again under the gaze of the law, when Dunk had been caught operating an unlicensed bagatelle table. Dunk had tried to argue that he had forgotten to renew the licence, and so shut the door of the room and not use the table, but the police sergeant, Lana, said the table was in the bar, and the balls were there too. Dunk was fined 10 shillings. In 1878, the Bridge Hotel was bought by a new publican, Mrs. D. Thomas. She put out an advertisement as she wanted known that Mrs. D. Thomas, formerly of the Yarrawee Hotel, has taken the Bridge Hotel, Bridge Street, and respectfully intimates to her old friends, travellers, and families that she is prepared to accommodate them with board and lodging. Every attention, so far as domestic arrangements are concerned, may be relied on. Shower and plunge baths in connection with the bedrooms, and especially to call attention to the fact that by strict attention to business, and by keeping the best of liquors, to merit a fair share of public patronage. Good stabling free, Mrs. D. Thomas, Bridge Street. Mrs. Thomas tried hard to rid the Bridge Hotel of its more unsavoury aspects. One of the most infamous moments in the Bridge Hotel's history was in 1892, when a patron committed suicide by drinking acid. The man Albert E. Griffiths was a chemist and apparently knew his way around hydrochloric acid. Please pause the walking tour and stroll up the mall towards where you see a Priceline store. This was once the corner of Grenville Street and Bridge Street and is the site of the Buck's Head Hotel. Its first proprietor was thought to be James Dodds, and he built the hotel in 1863. The Buck's Head Hotel was well known and very popular. In 1869, the Buck's Head Hotel was damaged extensively by the October flooding. It is recorded that the cellar and all contents were destroyed. In 1876, the old wooden building was completely rebuilt in brick again, and again underwent intensive renovations in 1892. It was a grand building, boasting 26 bedrooms and the largest dining room in town. The building also had hand-painted lead-light windows and one of the finest billiard tables in all the colony. It was thought to be one of the finest hotels on the goldfields. The Buck's Head Hotel had a long and rich history and was in fact only demolished in 1967 prior to some early redevelopments of Bridge Street. There is a photograph here. In 1954, a nearby tram on Sturt Street jumped its tracks and hurtled through the Buck's Head Hotel. Injuries or fatalities do not seem to have been recorded. It is a shame that the hotel didn't survive until 1979, when it would have been protected under the Borough Charter, which was a new heritage legislation document at the time. Please pause the walking tour here and proceed up Sturt Street to the Unicorn Apartments, located next to the Commonwealth Bank. The Unicorn Hotel is actually still standing and was fully renovated in 2012 and operated as the Unicorn Cafe until December 2018. The building was originally constructed in early 1854, making it one of the oldest hotels in Ballarat. It was owned at the time by Charles Vaughan and was sold in 1856. The sale advertisement stated that it had 18 bedrooms, a large cellar, a 14-stall stable. It even had a force pump that was able to provide running water in every part of the building. In 1857, the Unicorn Hotel was the scene of the death of Catherine Hancock. Her death happened during her period of confinement, usually related to late pregnancy and child labour, but the original documents do not give specific information. It did say, however, that a Mrs. Hasselhurst, a Black Hill flat midwife, was held accountable due to mismanagement and improper treatment. In 1872, the Unicorn Hotel was also home to the Ballarat Mining Exchange. Prior to this, shares and stocks had been traded at what was known as the Corner, which is commemorated by a plaque on the side of the Commonwealth building next door. In 1877, 2 men were injured in a cellar accident. The 2 men were lowering a cask of beer into the cellar door when they lost control of its weight and both were knocked down. It was first thought, due to the awkwardness of the fall, that the incident had proved severe, potentially fatal. But alas, both men sporting only bruising and minor cuts. In 1897, the hotel, along with many other buildings along Sturt Street, was decorated in celebration of Queen Victoria's Jubilee. Please pause the walking tour and make your way up Lydiard Street North to the Craig's Royal Hotel. The first hotel on this site was Bath's Hotel in 1853. In 1855, the Royal Commission of Inquiry for the Eureka Stockade was held in the Bath's Hotel. In 1856, it was also the temporary home of the Ballarat Council Chamber, while new council offices were built. The hotel was owned by a Thomas Bath and was actually the first licensed premises on the goldfields. Walter Craig took over the hotel in 1858 and it was renamed as the Craig's Hotel. The Craig's Royal Hotel is still fully functioning as a cafe, bar, restaurant and luxury accommodation. Feel free to stop here for a lovely cold drink at the bar or a coffee in the cafe and ask more about its wonderful history. The hotel was rebuilt in 1862 in brick and stone, with the addition of many more rooms and stables. In 1865, the American Confederate ship, the CSS Shenandoah, docked in Melbourne in search of recruits. The Shenandoah Ball was actually held in the Craig's Hotel dining room. The Craig's Hotel was renamed the Craig's Royal Hotel in 1867 when Prince Alfred visited the goldfields. Prince Alfred was hosted by the hotel in the Prince's Room, which was specially prepared for his visit. Dame Nellie Melba, one of the most prominent performers of her time, famously sang from the balcony in 1908. It is interesting to note that Walter Craig believed in premonitions, and in 1870 foresaw his own death and that of his horse Nimblefoot. And that his horse Nimblefoot would win the Melbourne Cup. Walter Craig indeed died in August that year, while Nimblefoot did win the Melbourne Cup a few months later in November. In 1889 and 1890, vast renovations and additions were made to the hotel, including the addition of a kitchen and servants' quarters and the tower. In 1895, Mark Twain visited the goldfields and stayed at the Craig's Royal Hotel. The Craig's Royal Hotel, as you see it now, was fully restored in 2010 and is a beautiful example of Ballarat's more glamorous history. Please pause the tour here while you walk towards the George Hotel on Lydiard Street South. The George Hotel is also another of Ballarat's surviving hotels that you can still get food and refreshments. The George Hotel was originally named the George Inn and was built in 1853, only a few months after the Bath Hotel, now Craig's Royal Hotel. In January of 1855, only a few weeks after the Eureka Stockade, a soldier was caught trying to sell the late Captain Wise's watch in the George Inn's bar. The soldier was flogged for his crimes. In 1856, the hotel erected a timber bar at the Ballarat races. It was said to have been so grand that it even had a separate dining room for serving luncheon and dinner. The bar even had a cover charge of 5 shillings. In 1883, the then owner, Miss M. Fern, applied for a late licence as it would be of service to late-hour travellers on the train. The licence was actually refused as there were 4 other Lydiard Street hotels already holding late licences. In 1902, the original hotel was demolished, and the hotel was rebuilt as a luxurious 75-room establishment. Please pause your tour and proceed to the corner of Lydiard Street South and Mare Street, where you will find the Sporting Globe. The building you see before you was originally the Jackson Hotel. Prior to the building of the Jackson Hotel, the Ballarat Post Office stood on the same ground. At this point, the post office was only a tent. The hotel was built in 1860 by John Jackson and was renamed the Royal George Hotel in 1863 and kept the name until the forced hotel closures in the 1890s. After this, it was renamed the Federation Hotel, but in 1913 the name changed again to the Railway Hotel, which it kept until the 1970s. After this, it was known as the Regent Tavern, associated with the Regent Theatre next door. In 2013, it was extensively renovated, and the veranda you see was erected as a replica of the one on the building in the 1890s. The business was then named Jackson & Co., but has since changed hands and become the Sporting Globe. Please pause your walking tour and follow Mare Street uphill to the corner of Doveton Street North, where you will find the pub with 2 names. The first hotel on this premises was the Royal Highlander. Its build date is unknown, but we do know that by 1858 the name had changed to Tate's Hotel after the publican Joseph Tate. In 1862, the hotel and all its contents were put up for auction by the sheriff with no reserve. It is not recorded as to why Tate had his hotel seized and auctioned off. After its sale, the hotel resumed the name of the Royal Highlander. In 1870, tragedy struck the hotel when Charles Cole, a middle-aged man, unmarried, dropped dead of a heart attack right out front of the building. The hotel was again hit by a disaster when it burned down and was subsequently rebuilt in 1885. Intrigue followed the Royal Highlander, and in 1903 a young, well-dressed man by the name of Joseph Rowett, who was staying in the accommodation, was caught stealing from the upper rooms. He was subsequently arrested. The history behind these hotels paints a picture of life in Ballarat in its early days. It was the oasis of comfort and luxury for princes unused to the grimy realities of colony living. It was a place where business of all kinds thrived. It was the watering hole where so many lives crossed paths. This past is intertwined with the buildings that are gone, but also with the ones that proudly stand today.